Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey. Welcome back to another episode of Real Music. Hope you're having a great day so far. This is going to make it better. A friend of mine, David Ellefson, is here. He's back once again. Love for him to check in and see what's going on with him. You know him, of course, as the former bassist for Megadeth, but he's got a band called Dieth. They've got a new album out. David sings lead vocals on a song, which is really cool. And he's also known for the Lucid, and he's been jamming with Kings of Thrash, and they've got some shows coming up. Dave's going to be doing some NAMM shows up in Anaheim, California in January, and going to be talking about his coffee and a lot of other cool things, a lot of stuff going on. So let's not waste any time, okay? Here we go. Here's David Ellefson.
I think the last time I talked to you, you and Jeff Scott Soto were just getting together, I think.
Good timing then. My Rat Pack records showed up in my stack of black T-shirts.
Yeah, right.
So I figured, yeah, why not? Let me wear this. I support the cause. So yeah, it's funny that was the last conversation we had, which was about a year ago, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. You've had a lot going on, and that's got to be fun to have different projects happening. How do you decide what takes the top priority whenever you're doing things?
That's a great question, because I always get this thing from these record labels. Well, is this a band or is this a project? It's like, tell you what, they're all a band and they're all a project. If anyone likes them, then we do another one. It's just that simple. And they've all been like that, and every band is like that. Every record deal is set up like that, right? If enough people like it and buy it, they can afford to give you money to do another one. You do another one. It was like that with Megadeth, And in fact, I'm lucky with that because we actually survived every record contract we had. We actually were able to fulfill it. We never got dropped, So I look at it the same thing with, everything I've done, otherwise, for Megadeth is it's, including Rat Pack, we did a 1-album deal. Let's put it out. Seems to be cool. Maybe we'll do another one, or Ellefson something, Ellefson Young, Ellefson Townsend. I don't know. Ellefson.
Just whatever.
Ellefson, whoever. Yeah.
Just whoever.
Which I like that. I'm actually happy that life is like that right now.
That's cool to be like that. I mean, and there's no pressure. It's like, I think I'll do this. I mean, just on any given time. I mean, you're not really pressured by the different projects, right? I mean, there is no pressure.
Like a year ago, there's a lot kind of coming down the pike at the same time, like for instance, the Ellefson Soto record, and Rat Pack did a great job. They really did a great job with it. They they think like a true metalhead. They made the vinyl, they made the backstage passes. In fact, I think I have one over here. They made backstage passes and pics and, really, really fan favorite, deep dive, cool stuff, and I love when a label gets behind something like that. And same with Napalm, with Dieth, they're a real metal label. That's what they specialize in. They make real rock records, so I always like doing that. The Lucid, we basically did independent, which was cool. Drew kind of drove the bus on that. And, then we could sort of, who else puts a single out the day before Christmas like we did, And I told him, I said, listen, man, I got a lot coming down the pike in 23 with Kings of Thrash, with Dieth, so I need to get the runway cleared. So I said, if we're going to release this Lucid thing, we got to get it done by the end of the year. And, the industry shuts down by Thanksgiving, the charts freeze, people start going on vacations. Nobody's putting out new records. Even Christmas records usually come out before Thanksgiving because, excuse me, the industry just, again, everybody goes on vacation. They're not thinking about work, they're thinking about going on vacation. So, with Drew, I told, literally it was the week of Thanksgiving or of Christmas. And I said, dude, tell you what, put it out like, the Thursday or Friday right before Christmas. Trust me, there'll be no news. The news sites would be clamoring for stuff to report on, and so we did. We put that single out that had Violent J from Insane Clown Posse, and it blew shit up, man. So I love that. I love being able to, break the rules,
Sure. You're talking about Dieth. how's that been going? Playing with those guys. It's been a fun experience so far, right?
Excuse me. Super cool. Our seasons are changing out here
Oh, yeah.
in the desert. Super cool. That band has always been fun from the beginning, and it's, I tell you what, it was challenging in the beginning because, look, I know how to play heavy music. I know how to record that stuff, because recording that stuff takes a special touch. In fact, it was cool because Christian Cole, who we worked at his studio in Germany a year ago, literally, when we were recording most of the Dieth album. We did some of it on our own in our own home studios and whatnot, and then we did, probably about half of it over there. He recorded my vocals. It's really where we discovered my vocal contributions, because I just stepped up to the mic one day to kind of help line out some vocal ideas for Walk With Me Forever, which was the ballad. And that's when Mihal and Guilherme both said, "Dude, you're singing this one. Like, that sounds awesome. You're our Phil Collins." I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Because G, sings the heavy stuff, and somebody pointed out to me, it's like this whole kind of heavy voice, clean voice, that's been around since like Kiss. Gene was
Right.
the gruff guy and Paul was the clean guy. So I was like, it's a good point. This isn't a new concept, I'd see like Bull from My Valentine, and Matt was the clean voice, and the bass player, whoever was kind of the, and that kind of became a thing in the 2000s. That was kind of a very young kind of musical approach, this sort of death metal voice, and then the clean singer guy and stuff. So, it's interesting to be in one of those bands that does that, because then they wanted me to sing more and more as we did cover songs. They wanted me to sing them, and so I had to really start paying attention to my voice, and it's quite honestly, it's kind of why I've cut back on doing some interviews and stuff, because I did a ton of press for Dieth, when we got up leading into the summer with the record coming out in June. So between singing and press, now I know why singers, they don't talk all day. They just, I'd be on a tour with Tim Ripper Owens. He wouldn't talk all day. Now I know why. It's like you save your voice for the show. And apparently Celine Dion, same thing. They don't talk, and now I know why. Press days are special days in the schedule, and you don't do press every day like I do. I always kind of say yes to stuff, and now I've learned I got to kind of control it a little bit. So hence our
Sure.
once a year check-in. I get to talk to you once a year, and that's it.
And you got to get it all out. Yeah.
Exactly.
I won't keep you too long, but
No, we're good. We're good.
But talking about your singing now, that has to be an experience just to be the main guy singing. Have you thought about that in the future, like with this project and maybe other projects where you sing more?
Totally. I
Do
mean,
that?
yeah, for sure. I used to sing all the time in a kid in bands, because again, my heroes were Van Halen and Kiss, and everybody sang at some point, or at least they're, Van Halen, of course, a lot of really cool harmony vocals, Styx. There's always a couple of singers, even Sweet, Steve Priest, the bass player, would sing. Plus they had a lead singer. So a lot of the stuff I grew up with, the Beatles, of course, everybody sang at some point. So, I kind of grew up with this mindset, once, I guess, it's funny, once I hit puberty, my voice dropped, and then it was a whole different thing. And then I just kind of enjoyed, it's funny, my voice dropped, but I would always sing the high harmony stuff. I always liked being the harmonizing guy. Because I realized, look, you need a front man. You need someone who to front the band, and that's a special personality. That's a really fearless, ballsy position, to be
Yeah.
up there fronting the band. And I have more of a speaking voice. When I get on the mic, I speak, and people quiet and they listen, right? Which is cool. I mean, for clinics, and I do a lot of, like when I was doing Bass Story and this kind of stuff. When I was a kid, there was a financial commercial, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen, right? And I've kind of got that voice, and that's for rock and roll, maybe not the best. You want someone, who's going to rile everyone up and get them in the party mood and keep the spirit high in between the songs. So that's not my forte. So I'm, Guilherme is great with that. So I'm usually better, being a singer, but I don't have to be the singer. But look, I started going to see a vocal coach, and which I've done a lot over the years, but I found someone here in town. He's been a friend of mine a long time, and I started seeing him, for vocal purposes, to just kind of find out where my voice is. I'm a true baritone, on the piano from G2 to G4. That's a true baritone. I can kind of trend up into the lower tenor, frequencies. So, with Dieth, because of our tuning, we tuned it down to C. That is perfect for me. C has always been a great range for me. Like the key of C is usually where happy songs are. If you move it up an octave, right? Like C, D, G, they're always kind of these, country music, Christian songs, pop songs on the radio. They're like, those are the happy keys, So my voice has always done pretty well in that key. So the irony that I'd be tuning down an octave, which fits my baritone, and we're playing like death thrash metal. And now suddenly I'm singing again at this point in my life. Who knew?
Who knew? That's right. Talking about being, if you had a band that was yours and you were singing, it would be a big responsibility to, to run that band. I guess it's a different world running the band as opposed to just kind of playing, in the band, right? It's a different experience, I'm sure.
Well, I kind of run every band I'm in, to be honest with you. I do. I mean, I'm very much, sometimes I'm a leader at the front. Sometimes I'm a leader I'm the engine or I'm the caboose, but I'm always in a leadership position, and it's just because I've done it. And even when I was a kid growing up, in Minnesota on the farm, it's like every hour of every day was focused on my bands. I'd be drawing backdrops and stage sets on, sitting in math class or church or whatever, drawing, this stuff on my tablets and stuff. So, this has been a single focus for me my whole life. So, I've always been, the leader doesn't always have to be the guy up front talking, but I mean, I do most of the interviews. I have had, usually the most experience. Metal Allegiance is an interesting group because we're all four leaders between Portnoy, Skolnick, Mengi, myself. So, in leadership, sometimes the best thing when you have four leaders is to just let leaders lead. And I think in that band we've had to kind of find who leads best in which part of the group. So so we allow that person to go, yeah, they got that. Let them there's like four pillars, you know what I mean? So you kind of let them take that part. And then that way we don't argue and step all over each other. No, those roles take a while, especially when it's something like that, where we've all had our experiences. We've all got our gold and platinum records, and we've all been on these tours. We've all done all this stuff. So, you don't have to come in. The worst thing is when people come in dick swinging thinking like, well, I'm the biggest guy in the room. Yeah, you're the biggest dick in the room is what you are. You know what I mean? So don't be that guy. You know what I mean? It's like, walk in, be cool. I don't like being in the room with that kind of dynamic. You know what I mean? I've done enough of that. You know what I mean? I've been around enough of that in my career. And there's a time and a place where you suck it up and you deal with it, and you just, but now I don't want to deal with that. It's now for me, it's I like playing, my motto, play music I like with people I like, and go along with the challenges that come with it too, so,
sure.
Even with Dieth, I mean, Guilherme is he's a, great leader of the band. He's kind of the musical leader of the band. And I defer to him when his instincts tell him something. I defer to that, that's another thing is I don't have to be the guy always, so I let him have his instincts. Same with Jeff Young. He and I talk regularly, just randomly call each other out of the blue and have phone conversations to talk about things. And I trust, Jeff has had his own experiences, since we worked together back in the 80s. So he's got good leadership instincts on stuff. And I learned to just sit back and, let people have, because people also want to feel validated. They want to feel like their voice matters, like their contribution matters, and validating people with letting them have the reins is part of that process in a band for sure.
And that's how you get along, right? Sometimes is you kind of let them say what they say and you kind of just react, whatever way.
Yeah, and
That you,
sometimes I'll sit back and I'll just let everybody, I'll let the kindergartners think they're in charge, and then I walk in and go, it's like whiplash. Yo, not my tempo. All right, motherfuckers. Now we're doing it my way. You know what I mean? So, it goes a number of different ways, But look, at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We're just trying to play some songs. We're trying to get on stage. And some days it's like wrangling cats, to get everybody to go the right direction. But at the end of the day, it's everybody's got a different role, and the personalities to play instruments. Lead guitar guys are a certain gunslinger kind of freaking guy, and lead singers and drummers are a certain dude, and horn players and keyboard players. So I mean, everybody, these are personality types. These aren't just musicians. These are personality types, and that's what people want to see, man. It's entertaining, man. People want to hear charisma in these performances, you know what I mean? So part of what you're dealing with is you're dealing with it's the circus, man. It's a wild, you got the fire breathers and the sword swallowers and the fucking jugglers and the dancers, and you got everybody you're dealing with, so it's it's all part of what we signed up for,
Sure. You're talking about Jeff Young. What's it been like to play with him again and do these songs? You're probably doing a lot of songs with the Kings of Thrash that you haven't done in a long time, or maybe some, you're going back and you're playing. Have you done that? Have you played some songs and you're like, man, I got to remember how to play that? Or have there been some experiences like that?
Well, when you're in the room when these songs are being written and you're part of the composing and you're part of putting these tunes together, and then you take them in, you record them, you tour them, it's like riding a bike, right? It's always sort of in your kind of heart and soul, right? So to go back and revisit them, they come back pretty quickly. There are a couple little tricky things in Mary Jane, and I knew them. I just had to kind of revisit them and sit down with a bass in my hand and there's da 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 da, right? But I remember them. They're right know where they are in the position of the fingerboard. I just had to get the motor movements again, get the motor skill back on it, and now it's no problem. But it's fun to revisit some of that stuff because those are really progressive, cool songs. And, for the most part, we only, in Kings of Thrash, we really only played the 80s stuff, it's kind of two parts of this thing. We started as the mega years because, we were honoring, these early, Megadeth stuff, but we do a lot of other stuff. I mean, look, we even we got Jump in the Fire, which is a Metallica song, and Dave wrote it. It was a cool, I always liked that song because I could play it on guitar. It's this pentatonic, basically just this pentatonic riff. And I always liked it. It's cool. So I wanted to put that in the sets. And, now we do some stuff by Riot and Def Leppard. We go back to some of the things that influenced the Kings of Thrash, that. So that's why we called it that, because we figured, look, we don't have to just play Megadeth songs. We can play kind of anything we want. We can honor other thrash icons and, play some other stuff. So, what I didn't realize is how much guitar Jeff played on So Far So Good So What. I was kind of under the impression he came in and played 4 solos and that was it. But now that I'm working with him, it's like he played guitar almost every single song on that record, and really had a big part of the sound of that record. So, and for a guy who literally had just a couple of weeks to kind of get his mind around the songs and learn it and come in and do it, and now he'll play. When we, Chris Poland was a guest with us, and obviously we'd love to have him whenever we can, but he's got other, family and work commitments. So that's why we build Kings of Thrash as me and Jeff, and then, guests come in, we can do that. But, when Chris isn't there, I mean, Jeff plays all of Chris's parts. He plays a lot of Dave's parts. So, I mean, that guy is a workhorse, man. He really, he does the work. He puts the time in for sure.
And he's getting a chance to play more probably now than he did back then, right? He wasn't around too long in the band, right?
Yeah.
So he's getting more of a chance to play.
Well, it's interesting, in Megadeth, because me and some of the former guys have tried it. Like when Dave broke the band up in 2002, me and Jimmy and our manager wanted me and Jimmy and Al Petrelli to come together and try to do something. And we were ready to do it. We were introduced. We were talking to some singers. Who reached out to us was the singer from Steelheart.
Oh
right?
wow.
And
Yeah.
that's which is the Rockstar movie guy, right? Isn't it? Yeah,
Right.
and I love his voice on some of those songs, like "We All Die Young." I mean, just killer, man. That guy's such a
Yeah.
great singer. And we were talking to the singer from oh fuck, what was that band on Maverick Records? Um, God, their name escapes me right now, but there's a few guys around. But I always knew this. It's like every person in Megadeth was there to basically support Dave's centerpiece, right? Like Dave's vision, Dave's songs, Dave's ideas, right? And while we all contributed and we were part of it, it all centered around Dave being the chief engineer of the thing, right? So when you peel those individual members out and try to go do something on its own, what it really lacks is that leadership. The whole reason we were all there was for that, right? Those guys, like Al is just so, that Sabotage gig really, developed a sound for him. And that's why when that turned into Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I mean, Al is he's the centerpiece of TSO. He plays on all those records on TV. When we hear those songs, it's all Al.
Right.
So Al is that guy, and DeGrasso has done so many different things. In some ways, DeGrasso's still the suicidal tendency guy to me, as much as he's had a ton of gigs. I mean, we did Montrose together, we did Megadeth together, we've done a lot of things together, but to me, he's still kind of the suicidal tendency guy. So, sometimes these things don't work when you sort of peel them out away from the reason we were together, which, in that setting was for Megadeth. So, it's kind of cool that Jeff and I not only get to revisit Megadeth stuff, but we also, we wrote some new songs together, and we're just, we're taking our time with how that's coming together, because every time we kind of start getting busy with it, some more Kings of Thrash shows come
Sure.
in, and
Yeah.
at the end of the day, people love seeing us play those old tunes together.
Well, I was going to ask you about that though. Talking about getting with Jeff and writing new songs. That's an idea in your mind that you're going to record like some new material and
we have some tracks already. Yeah, we have some tracks recorded. In fact, so we kind of got reconnected. The first time I'd seen Jeff in many, many years is at NAMM, the Ronnie Montrose Remembered concerts. And it was great because I met Brad Gillis that night, who's become a dear friend. Gilby Clark, I knew. DeGrasso was playing drums. So there's a whole cast of us out on stage. And I look over, and Jeff Young's way over there on stage, right? And with a flying V. So I didn't even recognize him, and he comes over, we give a hug and a high five. It's like, wow, this is kind of an unexpected moment. So we shared the stage then, and that would have been 2017 or 18 or something like that, right? And then like when we did the VH1 Behind the Music for Megadeth, I was the guy that reached out to everybody. I reached out to Chris Poland, I reached out to Jeff, and there were some hard feelings from those guys, understandably so. And so I just said, listen, come in and do this. We value your part of the story. You're part of this story, of the Megadeth history, and this will be good. I'd love for the fans to see you guys again, because it's easy when you're not in a big group anymore to just sort of, it's easy to fade out and fade kind of away from that spotlight. So I wanted them to be recognized. So when, they came to me to narrate the Nick Menza movie that we're working on, in 2022, actually it's 21 really, but by the time we got started on it in 22, I do what I always do, which is now I get invested. Suddenly I'm writing some checks to help fund it. You know what I mean? I just bring everything in, I'm like, if I'm in, I'm all in, you know what I mean? So I'm like, fuck it. I'll help out with this. Look, Nick was a dear friend to me. The Menza family is a dear family to me. We've all stayed in touch with each other, and to tell Nick's story, I thought was great. I was the first guy they reached out to for his book when they were writing his book, Megalife. So I did the first interview, and then of course that helped get other people involved in the book. And so I figured, look, I've been gifted with a great career and, some notoriety. So if I can use those things to help move something along for the greater good, hey, count me in. I'm here to be used for that stuff.
Sure. So when is that documentary supposed to be released? Is it coming up next year?
Next year, yeah. We're just working on all the post-production now. We filmed everything throughout 22. And then this year has mostly just been working on the production and stuff. So, and look, it doesn't have some big studio budget behind it. So, it's kind of everybody's throwing in their time and, their efforts and traveling around and interviewing everybody. So, it's done just out of, the goodness of everybody's hearts. And, but and it was through that Jeff and I got reconnected, and I sat down and interviewed him. In fact, he actually helped us get the one production facility where we could do a lot of the interviews in Hollywood. So Jeff, same thing. If he's in, he's all in. He brings his contacts and his resources, and at dinner, Jeff and I were hanging, and at the Rainbow, which is funny because the Rainbow back in the day was where all the decadence happened. I mean, that was full on, that was just, what that place was. And now it's not, especially since Lemmy's gone. I mean, Lemmy was kind of the staple there. And now that he's gone, it's sort of now kind of a monument to the old days, and it's, I'll go there once in a while and have dinner with friends. And it's funny, you see a lot of a younger generation hanging out there, and even people that got in there like in the 90s, they always say, they go, man, I miss the 80s, because the 80s was the 60s to the 80s. I think that was the glory day of true rock and roll at the Rainbow, but so Jeff and I went there and we're hanging out, having a pizza and whatnot, and he started humming these riffs that he had back that we used to work on back when he was in the band, and I totally remembered them. Because there's this one that's kind of this descending arpeggio riff in like 7/4, I think, and so we went in the studio with Mike Heller from the Lucid, let us use his studio, and he engineered some tracks for us. So we started putting some ideas down and got some tracks, and that, then Kings of Thrash formed after that when we jammed on stage at the Whiskey a couple months later. So it all, Jeff and I just had this kind of unexpected reunion and connection together, and it just opened up a nice musical journey for us to have now on our own, celebration of our past, and coming up with some new material together now moving forward as well.
Sure. And speaking of which, tell me about the Ellefson Coffee Rock and Roll VIP experience extravaganza. Yeah. All that good stuff. What's all about?
Yeah. I'd say it's so cool. First of all, I'm glad NAMM is back. I've always loved NAMM. My first experience to NAMM is when Gar Samuelson, he worked for BC Rich Guitars back in the 80s, and he would invite me and Dave out to the show, and he'd sneak us the passes, because back then it was very closed to the public. Like, and it still says closed to the public, but everybody gets in, Yeah. And everybody knows some dude at a music store who can get a pass, which is what makes it fun, man. It's like everybody's there. It's that week is the party, It's kind of like the Grammys. That's a couple of days, everybody's watching what's happening, in LA. And so the NAMM show is the same thing. So now that it's reset after COVID, it's back in January again, which is proven to be the premier time to have it. Metal Allegiance were performing at the House of Blues, which we've done that a lot over the years. And then they reached out to us regarding Ellefson Coffee, because they want vendors, they want people back, they want the show full, and they came to us about it, and we said, yeah, absolutely. And so my team, we put it together, and it was, at our booth is, dead center in Hall D, which is the place to be. It's, Ibanez Guitars is here, and SIT Strings, and Seymour Duncan. It's freaking awesome. And when we were there, back in 2018, I'm going to say 18 or 19, we got kind of we got sort of grandfathered in with another booth that was registered at NAMM, and that's what got us in, and then we registered. So now we're, NAMM members. And they loved it. We would just brew up coffee, and you could smell it everywhere. It smelled so good, and people would go, God, where's that coffee coming from? And we had a line of people that we were just giving away samples. And one of the key things at NAMM is you have to have an awesome floor, because your feet are so exhausted from walking, miles and miles and miles on this concrete convention floor. When I worked for Peavey, Hartley had just bought a brand new killer booth and had awesome carpet. People would come by our booth and stand on the carpet and go, oh my God, your carpet's so good. because your feet are tired. So that was one of the things we did at our booth. I said, we have to have a great floor. So we bought like this nice spongy floor that you can stand on. And it feels awesome. So if your feet are tired at NAMM, come by, hang out, have some coffee, and check out our awesome floor.
So cool. Yeah. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. What kind of, you're doing songs with some of your different bands, I guess, right? That are there.
Yeah. So I'm going to do some autograph signings at the booth. So we'll have Metal Legions, my tribe first, of course, Metal Legions, Dieth, Kings of Thrash guys. And then I'm going to hit up some other guests. I already have a few that I've had in mind, and I'm going to reach out to. Because that's what you do, right? Rock stars do signings at booths, and so Jeff Young, he's offered to do some acoustic stuff there. You can't have rock bands playing because there's volume restrictions, But so the acoustic thing's perfect. He's great at that, and now since we made the announcement, a lot of people are reaching out to us about things. So I just want it to be this cool thing. We're going to open up my vault of a bunch of cool, posters and laminates and clothes and guitars and just stuff that we call it my mega vault, stuff that just kind of fun, cool things that you wouldn't normally see out on the open market, so yeah, and there, the media lounge is again designed to be that, have a nice place for people to come in and do interviews and media, and they don't have to necessarily be with me, with other people too, have our friends in the media like yourself and whatnot come in, conduct interviews with people. And, we want it to be a place you can kind of come in, kick back, come in for a little shelter, and then go back out into the onslaught of NAMM, so I think we set it up pretty good. It worked really nice last time.
Awesome. The Kings of Thrash, what kind of shows you got lined up with them?
Well, there's a few, and the two that we've announced that are out right now are the Whiskey in Hollywood on December 14th, and then December 16th at a venue called Stages down in Santa Ana. And we're going to play. We're not going to just play Killing and So Far So Good So What like we did before. We've kind of done that in California already. So we're going to kind of play the best of those. We've got a whole bunch of other tunes that we're going to play that we didn't play the last time we came through at the Whiskey and down in San Diego. And so it should be cool. They reached out. We had a great show at the Whiskey. I'm glad we filmed it and recorded it and put that out. It's the Best of the West live album and DVD that we put out with Cleopatra. So that's out, and yeah, super cool. Really a great. It's just one of those shows. I don't think the Whiskey, I don't think has seen the Whiskey like that. I mean, that was a true fucking thrash metal mayhem show, awesome. Just like the old days. It was great.
Awesome. Through all the years of playing, you're doing all these projects, you're having a lot of fun. I may have talked about this before, but different things happen in life, and and you're having a good time. What keeps you motivated to play through it all? I mean, what keeps you really going where you go, I'm going to keep doing this?
The good Lord has blessed us all with talents, that's why you can't be somebody else, and you can't do what somebody else does, because that's the gift they were given, right? And so for me, part of it is the music, part of it is the leadership we talked about earlier. And, getting in the room to try to help, everything rise to the level that it could potentially be at, I think that's the thing that probably gives me the most joy. To be honest with you, songs are just a way to communicate with people, just like this interview is a way to communicate with people. Right. And being on stage is just that. You're performing something that brings people together. And I think ultimately that's kind of maybe my greater gift, is to just help bring people together, whether it's a few people in a room as musicians, or it's to take those people on stage and bring thousands or at least hundreds or whatever, tens of thousands of people together to be part of something. That seems to be one of the things that I'm meant to do here on the planet, so, sitting at home or just isolating on my own doesn't really fulfilled that, and then I get kind of grumpy and cranky, and I realize I got to keep moving and keep going, So, I think that's it more than anything, that's where my real passion and joy is, even the coffee booth. It's like, all right, look, why not be the host with the most and have the coffee booth, and have it be a place, a home where other people can come. And, I've already talked to some other people that are, doing some other ventures. It's like, hey, you want to have a voice and a platform at my booth, mi casa, it's su casa, so my home is your home. Come on in and I'll give you my booth as a platform for you to roll out your products and have a place to, have a shingle at NAMM, if you want to come in and do that. So, that's, I think, sharing the gifts. It's like Christmas, right? Share the gift. It's always better. It's always more fun for everybody.
Sure. And as far as the future, I mean, it's wide open. You probably, if there's some things that you want to do that you haven't done. I might have asked you that before. There's some things that you've always wanted to do, maybe you haven't done before. Have you? I know your mind's probably always thinking about, I want to do this, do that.
It's funny. I always like traveling. I like moving and being in motion. I do better there. And I don't always. It doesn't always have to be far away. I mean, I've never been to Africa. I'd like to go there. I want to go back to Costa Rica because I love it there. So, I mean, sometimes it's those things. It doesn't even involve music. You know what I mean? I think now I'm at this point where, I've kind of been everywhere a bunch of times, but just when you think you've been everywhere, suddenly you get a call from Dieth to go to Gdansk, Poland. And I don't ever remember being in Gdansk, Poland, Suddenly I'm there, So I think those are the fun things that music has been such a cool journey. I mean, when the thought came to me on the school bus, when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, to get a bass guitar and try to play Kiss songs and, sound like BTO and Sweet and Styx and all those cool guys back then, never in the world that I'd think, we'd be sitting here with you and me recapping, the last 45, 46 years of my life of where that bass guitar took me, took me all around the world, such cool places. And, even this last summer to Kings of Thrash, going back to Australia, and having that great experience down there and touring all across Europe this summer was so cool. And, I did it in a way, it was fly dates. I didn't have to we drove a lot of it too, but, I didn't have to, wasn't in the grind of it all, and I think that's something I kind of enjoy now, is not having to do the grind. And maybe I want to go do that again, but for this little season of my life, I like, can play on some weekends, and then I get to actually go enjoy and I go walk around Dresden, Germany, and like sightsee and see stuff, and really enjoy the culture and the food and the people. And that's something you don't get to do that much when you're in the grind. You're kind of just rolling through, and you get the passport stamp, and it's on to the next country or city. So I've already done all that. So now it's fun to just kind of be a little more, with the people. And the Polish thing, I really have enjoyed that, being up there, being part of that. And Guilherme from Dieth, he's a world history major with a minor in political science. So he and I nerd out on all kinds of history stuff, and which is great. We'll be walking down the street going to get coffee, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, and we can just talk about that. So I love that, man. It's at that point, the songs are secondary. You know what I mean? It's that's almost the easy part, is get on stage and play the songs. It's having these other life experiences now.
Right. And you get to look back on them and enjoy those times, make some new moments. So are there any surprises? Usually something pops up. Are there any things in the works that you don't know about that might happen with some kind of, project or something that?
Well, see, that's how this stuff all happens. When I moved to California, I didn't think we'd start Megadeth. I mean, I was, something like that was in the hope bucket, but it wasn't in the reality bucket yet. Who knew that, here we are, October, right? So October 21, I'm getting the Lucid out, doing that. I got hit up about the Nick Menza movie. So I knew there was a couple things coming down the pike. suddenly roll into January, a couple months later, and next thing you know, we're putting Dieth together, and by April, I'm traveling to, Poland to go shoot a music video. So, that's the fun thing about this is that, is you just wake up and say, what's on the plate today? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like the prayer, give me this day my daily bread, and it's like, and then that little morsel shows up, you're like, wow, this is freaking cool. I didn't see that coming. And that's why it's important to stay connected. I mean, there's like, 6 billion people on the planet. I've met some of them, there's a whole bunch more to meet, so that's kind of my goal is to, there's a lot more people to meet and a lot more stuff to do.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure you'll have fun, meeting those people and having a good time. We'll have to do this again, maybe 6 months instead of a year, because you're always doing something. I have to catch up and see what's going on with you.
Yeah,
You've got 1,000 things going on, but well, I hope all the best for you, man. I'm looking forward to hearing, seeing the DVDs and hearing new music and checking out everything that you do. Always a fan and always eager to talk to you, man. I appreciate you talking.
Man. Thanks for the check-in, Gary. Appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Take care.
See you, buddy. Bye.
For more information about David Ellefson, head on over to davidellefson.com. Check out all his social media sites and platforms, especially Facebook, and you'll find out what he's up to. And thanks for checking in. Until next time, everybody, always remember to keep the music real.